And yeah, I would like, without any further comments from my end, I will hand over to our storyteller, Veit Bergendahl. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me. Thanks for participating. It's a great pleasure to talk about our experiences at Boehringer with regards to self-management, self-organization, and a little bit about teal. I'm by no means a teal expert. I'm a chemist, biochemist. I've been working on mostly scientific and technical things until I had to take over responsibility for an operational unit about 7 years ago. And at that point, I got in touch with such concepts like teal and accelerate and agile methods. Because my colleagues told me, let us do our work and make sure that we have everything that we need. And that pretty much coined my interest in all these concepts. And since then, I've gotten more and more involved. The reason I wanted to participate today and tell a story is I want to get feedback, because what we've learned is there is no manual, there is no concept, there is no recipe that we could just read and adapt and make it work and then get back to what we always want to do, science and research and technical things. So this is the perfect platform, a perfect way to get in touch with people, exchange ideas. I believe all these concepts are still very young. And as I said, I have not found a good manual that I could just take and transfer to our team. And maybe that's the secret to the whole topic. So I want to give you an overview on where we came from, why we chose to pursue this, and especially why we chose to do that in a big pharma company, and then give you an introduction on where we are right now, what we expect to be doing, and what we've learned. And I really expect a lot of questions, and please feel free to ask really difficult or nasty questions, because those are the ones that help us the most to make progress. So where I'm working at is a small city down south in Germany. It's called Biberach. And it's part of two very large sites of Boehringer Ingelheim in Germany. We are a family-owned business, so we're not shareholder-based, which bears a lot of advantages, because we do have a very long-term focus. We're also focusing a lot on culture and people. And that's been a great advantage working at Boehringer. We have over 50,000 employees worldwide. We have over 13,000 in Germany alone, and 7,000 of which, about 7,000, work in Biberach. I'm part of a development unit, and it's a very operational unit. So we produce the clinical material for the clinical trials before we can submit such a new product into the market. And I had a great fortune in 2018 to start a complete new unit, and not just a group, but also build the building where we are going to be doing our job. And since then, I've been doing both, building a building and building a team. And as we did, I saw the chance to implement new ideas of working. I got inspired by books, like many of you, from Laloux and Kotter, and in Germany needs Pfleging. And a lot of these concepts got me interested in these ideas. The most important part to me was actually McGregor, who talked about the X and Y types, and how there is actually no scientific foundation for the Y type. So, and that became a key concept of our ways of thinking and what we wanted to accomplish. So we truly believe that every single person that comes through the revolving doors at the site, definitely the first day, is fully committed, fully motivated, and is convinced that they can do very good in the company, and that they can make the company profit from their talents and their potential. So we do not believe that there are any people who are not motivated and who need to be led by incentives and such. And that's been the key cornerstone of all what we are thinking and doing. So I started talking with the first 5 people very early on in the process, at the time where we were only 5. So what can we do to get some of these concepts introduced? I introduced them the book and some of the concepts, and they said, yeah, Veit, that's really interesting. And it's very nice of you, but do you actually believe that we can sustain that in such a big company, especially being a pharma company, very traditional, in parts very hierarchical? And some of my team members also had their experiences with such experiments, I would call them. So they challenged me very early on in the process. What do you think is going to happen? In 2 years, you will present a super great concept, and then they will promote you for that, and you'll be gone, and we'll be left with all the pieces. And that was a key turning point in our process. I said, well, is there anything we can do to prevent that from happening? Well, one is, of course, I won't leave in 2 years, but the other one is, what can we do to separate our journey from me as a person, from the whole idea? The one at the top, I would call it, has the great ideas and everybody is following. So we very, very early on came across that idea. Is it a bottom up, a top down? What needs to happen? And we've pursued that ever since. So all we do, we ask, is it sustainable? Is it dependent on one person, or is it benefiting the whole team? And that's when we started to implement a team that thinks about what are the concepts we need, what are the things that we need to abolish or get rid of or prevent from happening, to make it the team's concepts and not the concept of the person who is disciplinary leader of the leadership team and way further on. So we did not ask for permission in the company to create a new, completely new system with regards to HR, which regards to compensation. We said those are things we cannot change. Those are things we don't need to change at this point. What are the things we can change, and what do we have in our own hands? And that's been a very helpful principle to keep people on board, keep people involved, and to create something that is hopefully very independent of what the person on top of the organization does. It's never totally independent, I will say that as well. And that is actually part of my role in the whole concept. But we wanted to make it as sustainable as possible. So what did we need to get there? And I told you, first of all, we created a team. Since we're mainly focused on producing clinical substance, so new drugs for clinical trials, we cannot spend all of our time with organizational changes and ourselves. So we found a team that goes into the whole group, asks for input, needs, and feedback, and then creates a room where we exchange ideas, implement new ideas, review them, and then decide whether we maintain it or not. So principle that you will hear or have heard in many of the talks here in the TEAL network. We called it Polar Star because we wanted to give ourselves a name. We started working with external coaches. At times we had 2 different ones. One who was mostly focused on tools, ways of communication, key principles. And we got one coach that has a lot of experience with TEAL teams, TEAL organizations. And that helped us a great deal because, first of all, you have external input. It's not always filtered through the eyes of the eye of the big corporation. You get a lot of ideas, and then you can decide yourselves, does it fit to us or doesn't it? How much do we want to implement? How much do we put off for later on? And so that's been a great source of ideas and invaluable to make progress as we did. So that team also has tried things out. We've always come back to the whole team in full-size workshops. So by now we're 50 people. That of course creates a lot of time effort to get everybody in one room, separate rooms to talk about, and then come back and exchange the ideas and outcomes. But what was very clear from the beginning was we need a lot of transparency, and you probably heard that in almost every other talk as well, about what's there, what's expected, what everybody does. And very, very early on, we came across the need for a tool that creates transparency on the roles and responsibilities. So the first thing we did is we put all the profiles, job profiles online for everybody to see and to be transparent. That may be a total normal thing in every other companies, but in a big pharma company, that was breaking tradition already, to have super transparent job profiles. Everybody could see what you're responsible for. But that wasn't enough for us, so we went to a tool called Peerdom, and there are other tools available that have similar benefit, Glassfrog and so on. And so that helped us a great deal, not only create roles and responsibility, but that created the whole discussion on what's the mode of action we work on. We work together. So we pretty much adopted what we call role-based, and everybody else calls that way, role-based working. The idea of self-organization came in at that point as well, because we did not have a group that assigns roles, that assigns tasks to certain people. So we separated the disciplinary responsibility of our leaders from who's doing what. So the team creates the need for a certain role, for certain content, and then the team, depending on talents, preferences, and availability, finds the right person to pick up that role. And we also always have at least two, usually 3 people who have the same role, so that we have some redundancy that creates a lot of safety for everybody. Actually, that's a very important point. Psychological safety has become a major point of discussion within our group, because we found that without some backup, some safety, people will have a hard time leaving behind their experiences with the old world, with the very hierarchical, top-down ways of doing things. And we had to come across ways to provide that. The key was, again, transparency, openness, and approaching each other with a great deal of respect. So we very early on decided to have the leadership team, when they had their team meeting, invite everybody optionally. Excuse me, somebody is sharing their conversation. Okay, so very early on, we invited the whole group optionally to participate in our leadership team meeting, which again was a break of tradition, because we also shared our full budget of our department. We shared our goals, and the only things that we did not make fully transparent are any topics that were confidential, and mainly those are human resources based topics. So everything else, planning, distribution of roles, tasks, updates in the portfolio, those things were shared directly and live with the whole team. And that's become a very good principle that we followed, and that made us also change the name of the meeting. So we're no longer calling it the leadership team meeting. It's actually our whole team meeting now. I want to stop here right now with all the concepts and principles and give you an overview on where we are right now. So I think at this point, or actually last year in the summer, we asked around, so why is it that we do it? What is the foundation? And if you ask 10 people, you got 12 answers. And we saw the need to actually hold it and define it. What is the key reason why we do things differently? And we came across one key point that we all want to pursue, besides providing the material for clinical studies, and that is we want to create an environment for everyone to engage and explore their full potential. That's also a key role for our leaders, to create that environment and make sure that the prerequisites are there. But we found very quickly that that was not enough. So we needed to get a common understanding for everybody why we're doing it. And we came across the concept that's been developed by Robert Dilts, and that's called the 6 logical levels of change. And so we've since worked on the 6 levels, which are purpose, identity, which is values and beliefs, capabilities, behavior, and environment. I can put those 6 in the chat after the talk, but those actually helped us to create a common understanding within the whole group. And we did that way before we pursued other topics like feedback culture and preventing silos from happening, because we said this is the foundation of what we're doing. If we have a common understanding, then we can arrange anything towards those points. And that really helped us a great deal. And so with that work, the whole leadership team, and first and foremost myself, we realized that it's actually not working on a concept, working on a manual, if you want. It's actually everybody working on their own skills and awareness. So we pretty much realized that it's not a concept that you can put onto an organization if not everybody is ready with those concepts, if not everybody is aware of their own fears or of their own capabilities with regards to trusting each other, being okay with there is nobody above you who tells you what to do, taking risk, taking responsibility. So all of these things lead to yourself and not to the leadership, to the CEO who says, now we're teal. It's actually your own ability to deal with that environment. So pretty much now we're focusing on development of every single skills. And that also brought us to the point where we're no longer questioning, is it sustainable? Because if we're developing our own skills, our own people, it doesn't matter whether there is a top-down organization or if there is a HR system that is teal or not teal. You grow with it, you learn something, you don't lose that. It may create a situation where you say, this is not the environment where I can put in my potential and my talents, but you will not lose that. And so we've since focused on ways of bringing the whole organization forward by bringing everybody individually forward. And that's been really the key learning for me. It's no longer the question, can we convince our CEO to adopt a working system that everybody is using then at BI? It's actually always the question, what can I do to grow within it? What can I do to develop a growth mindset? Because that seems to be the first and foremost ability to adapt any kind of teal concepts. And with that, we hope to eventually be at a level evolutionary to bring it even further and adapt more and more of those concepts within an environment that's very traditional and very conservative. So that's been a very key point. From my point of view, when we walked in, it was extremely emotional. Everybody said, "Oh yeah, great! Wouldn't that be wonderful?" And we pretty much realized that eventually you come to your own limits with regards to what can I do in terms of responsibility taking, risk taking, and you have to realize we're within an environment that is traditional. Most people have worked there for 10 years or more, and for them, and especially also myself, to adopt such new concepts, it takes a lot of growing yourself. So that's one key part. I'm trying to check whether I forgot anything, and Micha is already chiming in to give me a signal that we should start discussing.
You take your time. If you just go ahead. Is there anything, or you want to go with questions, or?
If there are questions already, we can go, because usually any other point that I forgot will come up in the talk. And if it's not coming up, then it's probably not relevant to everybody else.
Genau. Exactly. So what we do here, I put it in the chat just once more. So you can actually use Mentimeter. If you click on it and enter the code, and then you can type in your questions, everyone can actually vote which question is the best, which one of those he or she admires most. So, and then we'll just go through. And one of the questions is here: do you still have an org chart, or do you only have circles, etc.?
We're both.
Yeah.
So we have to have an org chart based on our HR rules. And so it was wise to not think we can change those. It does also provide some backup, some confidence, because people will not leave the old world and go into the new world and leave everything behind. So we had to have it. Also from a GMP standpoint, our quality organization said we can't come up with a circle-based org chart when we have the first GMP inspection. We by now actually believe we could one day, but we have not been brave enough to try. But if you look at the principles, this could be feasible. So we have both.
So I would assume that for regulatory reasons, you would have the normal org chart, but for value stream reasons, you would have just different circles, peerdom, or whatever you use.
Yes, we have. So we have the peerdom org chart, which we post on our individual site, but we have to have the hierarchical pyramid-like org chart. But in the regulations, there's nothing said that it has to be hierarchical. So that leads us to believe that one day we can have a circle-based org chart. And if you look at it, there's a way more definitions and helpful descriptions on who does what. And that's what's required by the regulators.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. I just go now to the next one. Did you encounter problems with passiveness and resistance?
We did encounter resistance, and most of that was based on fear to make bad experience again that they've already made before. So we had a huge advantage over other departments here at Boehringer because we're completely new. We could build up based on what we want to achieve. We could select people. So one of the benefits of coming up with those concepts, if they are very attractive, people apply to your team that see a big benefit to get there. So you become attractive if you hit the nerve of the people who want to work there. So we did try to disclose our goal, to disclose our new ways of working, so that nobody joins that says, I need hierarchy, I need somebody to tell me what to do. Funny enough, not very many people ask for that. So yeah, but you do always have people who say, are you sure this is going to work? Are you sure I'm not in the end going to be the one who doesn't look good? So yeah, you do encounter that. And it's important because it gives the people a kickstart to go on that journey themselves, because in the end, it's about yourself.
Mhm. One more. How do you deal with teams, people not delivering in your current dual structure? I assume there is tension between the old and the new ways of dealing with that.
Yeah, so that's actually one thing I wanted to mention. I don't know if it's due to the new ways of doing things, whether it's due to the fact that we just selected extremely good people, but we just last fall took over the new building and the new facility, and within the very first tech run, we were able to do a full production run from the start to the end successfully, and we harvested a good amount, a regular amount of product. So the question is, how much of that is due to the fact that we got the right people, or whether we chose the right way of doing things? And I hope it is both. And some indication is that we managed to get both things in the right direction early on. So that is a benefit of that.
Okay, good. Another good question here. How did you find answers to career development, especially in terms of salary and hierarchy level development within the organization, still hierarchical organized?
Yeah, so best way to look for answers is where people are, to look where people are that have a stake in it. So you have to keep HR involved. And it's actually not something that they don't want. They tell you, Veit, you have to be aware that these are new ways of doing things, and we cannot change all at once, and you probably don't want to. So I got a lot of help from HR. I also get a lot of help from the people themselves, because to some, the existing structures are actually used to, you know what you get. And then you do small steps to combine that with the new ways of doing things. So most of the people in my group are working within the, what do you call it, tarif. So this is by the workers' units agreed upon salary ranges. So we did not change that. We didn't even ask to change that. That is the system that works in Germany, and that provides security on how much you make. Once you're outside that system, you still have a guidance, and within that guidance, you can try to adopt your concepts, experience-based, responsibility-based. But we're not at the point where we're openly discussing who's moving from what position to another. That is just too early to do.
Okay, there's actually one question that really connects quite well to your last answer. Why did you keep and which HR topics secret? Probably referring to salaries and pay rises and
yeah. So salaries, promotions, and of course disciplinary topics have to be confidential. That is a rule that we did not ask to change, and we do not want to change at this point, because that's just the reality. I cannot openly discuss any disciplinary topics within the whole team. That's just not the reality, and I'm not even sure if in all instances I would like to do that. So that's actually a red line that people would like to maintain. So when it comes to feedback already, we've seen a lot of doubt or concerns. How openly can you share feedback? One-on-one already depends on who is giving feedback to whom. And we've created rules how you give feedback. You have to ask, can I give you feedback? And you don't give feedback until the person says, yes, I want feedback. And then we have also rules or recommendations, how you then do the feedback. You find a good place, a good time, you agree upon that. But we've also have had an extreme example. So one of my leaders in the team, he's got a lot of responsibility, and he's got a big team already. He offered to do a fully open feedback session within the whole leadership team. So it wasn't one-on-one with each leader. It was a one-on-one with each of his peers and myself as his boss. And so everybody said, wow, that's super brave. But everybody came out of that session and said, wow, what a valuable thing, not just for that person, but what a valuable thing for every one of us. So there's a whole bandwidth of things. And that shows you that not everybody is teal, not everybody is right, not everybody is at the same point, and yet you have to cater to that. And maybe that's the reason why there is no manual that works for everybody.
Sorry, I just had a quick technical challenge, so I was kicked out and in again. So I think the chat is now erased, deleted. I've seen there were some questions. I would like to ask you if you could put your questions into the Mentimeter, and I'll just copy it in again. So that would make it a bit easier for us to follow up with the questions.
Michael, can I use this moment
for 30 seconds, but
to talk, just to bring in some different
just very quick one, please.
Conversation, Veit, because you were also asking for feedback at the beginning. I'm in a similar company. I'm one of your competitors based in Berlin. My experience is that a way to implement things in a company is to start in projects, maybe in cross-functional projects, because you said it's a hierarchical, traditional company, but you have people who are open. You have a lot of people who want to go new ways, and you find them if you work this tier way in cross-functional projects together. We had some very, very nice experiences with this, and this is another way to spread this seed and to spread the ideas in the company.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah, so yeah, I know that company. I've worked there as well a long time ago. And what you're referring is to what we call pilots. I mean, I guess everybody says, okay, let's do a pilot. And then you have a protected room, and you gain experiences, you do lessons learned, and then we chose our whole department, our whole new department, the whole team as a pilot, if you will, but we never called it that way. I went to my boss, who's running the whole development department globally, the development biologicals, and he said, well, Veit, let's keep exchanging ideas, keep me updated. I trust you, it's a new team, you can do the things. As long as it works, I will back you up. And as long as you keep it transparent, I will back you up. And especially delivering the first, now it's 2 tech runs successfully, has given me more credit to try more things. So we also have a group in the US, in Richfield, who does that approach that you said. Try one project, one transfer project, one development project, and see whether it performs better than other projects. This is the typical old way of metric things, and there's a big value in that as well. They approach it slightly different. They say we do agile ways of doing projects with all these typical tools, and you see a lot of benefit and a lot of progress in that. To me, that is focused on concepts, on tools, and that has the merit too, and we exchange our experiences all the time with the 2 teams. What I think what we're doing is we're focusing on our people. We're focusing on inner work. One of our coaches, Mark Wettmer, said that is such an important part of developing as an organization, to focus on inner work. And so maybe that's the difference between the 2 ways of trying new things out.
Thanks again for the question, Frank. We have another one here. How do you deal with extrinsic reward systems of the organization and the effect those have on the intrinsic motivation of people?
Well, yeah,
Thanks for the question.
Yeah, very, very helpful question. It shows that you eventually get to the point where, especially teal concepts, come to their limits, but maybe that's a valuable thing for yourself and the organization to realize too, because if you go in and expect limitless freedom, and then what I've seen with many other groups that I also talk to outside Boehringer, and that's why this whole networking is so important, is eventually you meet those limits, whether it's the difference between what you would love to have eventually and what's the reality of your business. I mean, when the crisis strikes, like Corona, or in our business, it was the biosimilars. People had a lot of ideas. They went in with also these new concepts because there are new companies that could be formed and you could adapt that. And then reality strikes. Business reality gives you a huge challenge, and very often at that point, those are organizations get back to the old traditional ways of doing things, and then people are disappointed and frustrated. And so I guess the earlier you reach your limits and realize them, accept them, and then see how you can go from there, the less frustration and disappointment you have. So with regards to that particular question, incentives are not all that bad, especially if the incentives are just and that you can understand why you get more or less. At Boehringer, we have I would say, a very good incentive system. We went away from individual incentives because it doesn't reward a team, it rewards individuals. That in turn rewards elbow mentality. We don't have that in our team. We selected people for that, and our incentive system does not promote that, the general incentive system. So I don't think it's a contrary to what you try to achieve. You just have to make sure that if there is a tension between that system and what you're trying to achieve, you make that very transparent, and then you discuss how to deal with it as a team and as a leader.
I mean, if we look at it, it's probably easier for smaller type of companies like startups to really initiate and really start with that transparency of salaries and who gets a pay rise and how is profit distributed. I mean, there are examples like life sciences, for example, with Tim Oschinger. What would be your take on how can this be made more transparent in larger corporates? Transparency in terms of HR information.
Well, I mean, that's exactly where teal concepts, that's exactly where teal concepts come to a limit with traditional organizations, because in the end, let's face it, there is a power gradient within organizations, as long as you have those hierarchies that then decide on whether you get promoted, whether you get a raise, whether you get an incentive or not. That creates a power gradient. That's it. Yeah. So when I talk to my a colleague who reports to me, I have to be aware that I am in a position of power and there's dependency. So the only thing that I have left at this point, because I cannot change it to transparent, it's forbidden, I cannot talk openly, and we cannot discuss in a team who makes how much. So you have to be transparent about that limitation, approach everyone and say, listen, if I give you such a raise, that's going to have an impact on other people, and you have to trust me that I try to make it as just as possible.
Yeah, I fully understand. And hierarchy is not something bad per se. It's
No.
really needed. No, I have one more question. What about the immune system inside an organization like yours?
The immune system.
Yes, I mean, you're sort of a pharmaceutical company, lots of biologists, and how do you deal with immune system?
Yeah, so the people in our company know right away what the immune system means. So to those of you who are not biologists, if you come up with a new way of doing things, the organism detects there's something new, there's something foreign. And very often that's been experienced as something bad. And so you have to realize when you change things within, especially within a traditional company, that what you're creating there is something different from what people have lived in, what gave especially the leaders, the people on top, the chance to get to where they are. And the system realizes what you're doing there is different. And I may not have had the opportunity to get to where we are, to where I am within that system, because there's totally different concepts. Some people say, no, I would have gone there anyways, because I'm just so great. And then eventually, when you have these discussions, people realize, well, this is different. I have not experienced an immune attack yet. Luckily, most people approach me with, oh my God, that's great, but are you sure that's going to be sustainable? So it's mostly questions. Those people who are absolutely against it, they say it to you, but you come into a discussion and it's actually those people you need to reach out to, because that's the most potential that you have. To get those people thinking, to get those people at least reflecting on those concepts. So yeah, the immune system can be a danger. Luckily, I have not experienced it yet. And to be honest, Berger has been trying to have a focus on cultural aspects. We talk about agility and entrepreneurship and accountability, and with those also comes a lot of culture concepts. And we have a tons of posters where we define where we want to be at and how the culture should be. And it gives you plenty of arguments that what we're trying to do is in line with the overall company would like to accomplish.
But you know what, Veit, I thought that your company is one of those with, well, research and development is really the core, the DNA of your company. So I would have thought, and I think it is like that, that even Boehringer and all the other large companies, they are really keen on getting to know how they can reinvent themselves. So this is why I thought the immune system must be relevant to the top management. And
as I said, those new concepts are being distributed also on the very top level. And if they like it or not, they're constantly confronted with that. And I mean, we're certainly not the first pharma company who tries those things. I mean, Bill Anderson has really motivated me to say, well, if Roche can do it, certainly we can do it as well. And now he's with Bayer, so he will try to change things there as well. So I think Boehringer is not different than any other pharma company. We have to change ways of doing things because we are competing for very scarce abilities, and so we're fighting for good people. We're fighting for expertise, and in this culture now, especially people with 15, 20, 25 years old, you cannot sell this whole concept. We think on top and we do on the bottom. This will certainly not attract the best people. And Bill has said that many times here in Thiel around the world. We have to open up to those people, and that's what you have to do in order to get those people, is to be on the same eye level, is to look at what do you need to do your job, and not how can you do your job, or tell me what to do your job. So you said you need hierarchy. People are asking for hierarchy because they say we need structure. And within that structure, we have people who have more responsibility, less, more experience than less, and that does create some sort of hierarchy. But we have to do it, because otherwise we lose time, we lose efficiency, and we lose, and that's the most important thing, attractiveness.
Yeah, I fully understand. What I would like to do is actually just open the floor a bit to those people that are keen on asking a question, just a very brief one. So I will spotlight you. And is there anyone, do you want to raise your virtual hand so I can identify you like Frank did before? Is there anyone who's keen on, okay, you want to have a think about, and I'll just ask one of the questions. Oh, here we have one here. Excellent. Desiree, give me a second. Here you are. Please go ahead, unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Veit, for sharing. So I have a question, because at Boehringer, you also have this like research and development, right, which is quite big. So are there also already some teal spots in the R&D department, or how does it look like there?
Yeah, a great question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question.
Yeah, thanks, Desiree. So yeah, that gives me an opportunity to point out groups within Boehringer that have started long before I did. So we did have an engineering group that we got from a fusion with Sanofi, with an animal health division, and that was a group that adopted holacracy concepts, and they've worked within that concept for 5 years. And if you ask me, it was extremely motivating to the people, and we learned a whole great deal of that. So they've started long before it was within Boehringer, and then we adopted it and included it in that. Then we have an IT department which is working extremely self-organized. They even have their own building which tried to accomplish environmental things, environmental with regards to how do the offices and the rooms look like, and how does it support the way of working. And so that is one group which is very actively pursuing that, and the two are not linked to each other, although we're constantly reaching out and trying to build links and learn from each other. Then what I've mentioned earlier was the research group in Ridgefield, but they're really focusing a lot more on these typical agile methods and tools and setups. Those are the things I'm aware of. Thinking within medicine, and that is an extremely nice thing to see. Very traditional, very long tradition of doing things. They are also starting with those concepts and trying to work out. And we have a whole agile coach group within project development who are reaching out to individual groups to do little projects, little experiments, and just raising awareness.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I have one more question here. How do you align the talents or roles within the desired business outcomes? What do you do when team people want to develop into a direction that is not of benefit to the organizational goals?
Well, I mean, short answer, that just doesn't work.
Good.
You can only benefit if there's a win-win. I mean, that's just simply it. If you are working in an environment where your personal preferences and your talents and your potential is of no benefit to the group you're working in, then that just won't work. And the earlier you find out, the faster you can find a better place. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit of black and white answer. The truth is usually a little bit more gray. So I found, and that's experience from my own group, I found situations where things just drastically change, maybe due to health reasons, but also people realize I've been doing the wrong thing and now I want to do something different. And even within such a small group that we are, with a very tight focus on what we need, you need so many different talents and so many different preferences and abilities that so far we have always found a very good productive spot for anybody within our team to go on. But I do expect that situation to happen. And then I think it's the best for the group and the individual to realize, yep, that's just not working. And then you have to be able to let go without hard feelings. And maybe you come even out of that and saying, hey, I'm glad I made the experience. That's not for me, but due to that, I know what I want now. And hopefully they tell me one day, that's what I found. So
yeah, perfect. One more question here from Mentimeter, and then we have two hands. The question here is, how is your department seen by BI functions not on the teal path? Are there frictions?
So far, I have not experienced frictions. So there's not been any attempt of discrediting us or yeah, so there's no hostilities yet. I do experience people have their opinions, and I've even talked to somebody who said, you know, Veit, that's just utopic. You will never succeed. And you should expect that. I mean, you come up with something that completely rattles the world. And maybe 10, 15 years ago, I would have said the same thing because it was just not my my scope, my world, my surroundings.
That's fine. Yeah. That's fine.
But honestly, our top management started a concept that is so much in line what we're trying. Maybe we're going way further than they had in mind when they came up with those key principles. But as long as you stay connected to that and don't try the opposite thing, you always have a ground on how to discussing it and come to a win-win solution.
Fully understand. We have only a few seconds left. I will, Frank, are you there with your video? Then I can spotlight you. Excellent, fantastic. So give me a second. So, and off you go with your question, please.
Thank you.
1 more minute.
So,
and we have Astrid.
Yeah, thank you. So in the previous session, I learned from various participants about beliefs, and you touched upon it a little bit. For example, limiting beliefs such as I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to be able to change, or I can trust only myself. What my question is, what do people do to help each other move from limiting beliefs to supporting beliefs that are more positive or growth oriented?
Thank you for the question, Veit. Just a very brief answer so we can get Astrid on board as well.
So I told you about the 6 levels of change. Beliefs is one central point. This is holding people back from adopting new things, from trying new things, from believing they can do. So it's a very, very important thing to work on. And that's what you got to do. You have to address those things. You have to find rooms where it's safe to address them. And then you have to bring those results out in the open and try to benefit from them as a team. Super important. Thank you. Yeah.